Travelers hurried through the shiny terminals, dragging their luggage and checking their watches, eager to catch their flights. The air was filled with the sounds of rolling suitcases, cheerful announcements over the intercom, and the excited chatter of families and friends saying their goodbyes. In one corner of the airport, a group of passengers gathered near Gate 12, where Flight 237 was preparing for departure. Among them were a young couple on their way to a romantic getaway, a businesswoman flipping through her notes for an important meeting, and a family with two energetic kids who could barely contain their excitement. Each person had their own story and destination in mind, but they all shared one common feeling: anticipation. As they lined up to board the plane, smiles filled the faces of those waiting. A cheerful flight attendant stood at the gate, warmly greeting each passenger as they stepped onto the plane. Her uniform was crisp and professional, adorned with a name tag that read, Sarah. With a friendly smile and calming voice, she helped everyone find their seats and stowed away luggage in the overhead compartments. Once aboard, passengers settled in and exchanged small talk. The children pointed out the large windows that offered a view of the tarmac, while the adults made themselves comfortable in their seats. The plane's interior buzzed with laughter and conversations as people shared stories about where they were headed or what they planned to do upon arrival. As soon as everyone was seated and buckled up, Sarah moved down the aisle carrying out her pre-flight safety checks. She demonstrated how to use seatbelts and life vests while her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. Her calm demeanor put everyone at ease as she reassured them that they were in good hands. Just before takeoff, there was an announcement from the cockpit that sent ripples of excitement through the cabin. Passengers were informed that it would be a smooth flight with clear skies ahead. The anticipation grew even more palpable as everyone settled back into their seats, ready for adventure. Suddenly, without warning, a group of men burst into action at the back of the plane. Their faces were serious as they shouted commands that cut through the cheerful atmosphere like thunder on a sunny day. Fear replaced excitement in an instant. Gasps echoed among passengers who suddenly realized something was very wrong. While some passengers froze in shock or began to panic, Sarah sprung into action. Her training kicked in as she quickly assessed what was happening around her. She moved strategically down the aisle, trying to maintain calm among frightened travelers while keeping herself aware of any threats. As chaos erupted behind her, Sarah's heart raced, but her mind remained focused. Little did anyone know that this seemingly ordinary flight attendant held secrets far beyond serving snacks or showing safety demonstrations. Just as the plane's engines began to roar and the familiar feeling of takeoff filled the cabin, a sudden commotion erupted at the back. A group of 5 men, faces obscured by dark caps and sunglasses, burst from their seats, moving with startling speed. Their calm demeanor moments ago had completely transformed into a fierce intensity that sent chills through the passengers. "Stay in your seats! No one moves!" one of them shouted, his voice booming with authority. The hijackers were armed, and their presence shifted the atmosphere in an instant, from joyful anticipation to cold fear. There was no mistaking their intentions. They had taken control of the airplane, and panic washed over the brave travelers who had been so eager for adventure just moments before. Sarah, the flight attendant, remained calm but alert. She instinctively glanced at the cockpit door, knowing that her immediate priority was to ensure the safety of all on board. The leader of the hijacking crew stepped forward, clearly agitated yet determined. He waved his weapon menacingly, demanding immediate attention from both passengers and crew. "This flight is now under my control," he declared, scanning the aisle with a fierce glare that suggested he would not tolerate any resistance. We want a safe passage to our destination. Anyone who disobeys will face serious consequences." His words hung heavy in the air as murmurs spread among the passengers. Fear morphed into confusion. Some gasped while others swallowed hard. Sarah used her training to keep her emotions in check. She quietly signaled to her fellow crew members, who were also scrambling to process what was happening. As she moved through the cabin, Sarah took mental notes of where each passenger sat, recognizing faces filled with dread mixed with disbelief. Next to her was a nervous teenager clutching his phone as if it could somehow protect him. In another row, a father held his children close, whispering reassurances that rang hollow in the current situation. The hijacker leader began barking orders at everyone, demanding compliance while threatening anyone who dared challenge them. "Put your phones away. No calls. If we see or hear anything suspicious." With every command issued by the hijackers, tension escalated across every row of seats. People clutched their loved ones tighter. Some closed their eyes tight as if wishing it all away. Yet others couldn't help stealing glances at their captors, hoping for a moment of weakness, wondering how far these men would go to assert their power. As chaos unfolded around her, Sarah's mind raced through escape scenarios and emergency procedures she had trained for repeatedly in narrow classrooms and during simulations that now felt almost surreal. The unsettling truth settled in. This was no drill. Lives were on the line. Watching as fear transformed into determination among a few brave souls seated nearby ignited a spark within Sarah as well. She needed a plan, a way to protect these passengers, while facing down the threat posed by those hijackers without drawing attention to herself just yet. Little did anyone know that beneath her composed exterior lay strength born from years of training, the kind that could help turn the tide against their captors when the time was right. Amid the chaos, Sarah's heart raced, but her exterior remained calm. Steeling herself against the overwhelming panic enveloping the cabin, she focused on the faces around her, searching for signs of distress among the passengers. She could feel their fear. It seeped into the air like a thick fog. Yet she understood that now was not the moment to succumb to it. Maintaining her professional composure, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped forward, projecting her voice over the commotion. "Everyone, please remain seated and keep calm," she urged, her tone steady and reassuring. At that moment, the warmth in her voice seemed to settle over some of the passengers like a soft blanket amidst their anxiety. As she moved between the aisles, Sarah assessed each passenger's state. Some were wide-eyed with tears welling up, while others appeared frozen in shock. The nervous teenager she had seen earlier was gripping his seat tightly, and a mother cradled her children close to her chest, fear etched across her face. Each breath Sarah took became purposeful as she spoke quietly to those who looked especially frightened. "Breathe deeply," she encouraged a woman sitting near the emergency exit. "You're safe here. We will get through this together." The woman nodded slightly, though her eyes betrayed her fear. Sarah made a mental note of people who needed extra support. Every passenger was important. Meanwhile, the hijackers paced through the cabin like predators stalking their prey. Their energy filled the space with tension as they barked commands, demanding complete compliance. Yet Sarah also spotted an opportunity amidst the chaos. It would be crucial to remain visible. If she could maintain a presence of calmness and authority, it might help diffuse some of the passengers' fears and keep them from acting out of desperation. With each step down the aisle, Sarah's mind was racing through emergency protocols she had practiced countless times before. how to communicate discreetly with crew members or signal for help without alarming the hijackers. She listened closely to their demands, but also kept an eye on their body language for any shift that she could exploit later. "Everyone listen carefully," she called out again, firmly but gently, raising her voice just above shouting from one of the hijackers, disputing with another passenger who dared to ask questions. "Our job is to keep you safe. Please follow instructions without any sudden movements." Sarah's words seemed to create a ripple effect. Some passengers began nodding in agreement with one another as they held hands tighter for comfort. A sense of collective resilience started to form as they looked at one another for support. It was a small but vital change in atmosphere that Sarah noticed and hoped would build into something stronger. While chaos reigned around them, this flight attendant reminded everyone that they were not powerless spectators in this tense situation. They were still human beings, capable of bravery and hope. And within her own heart surged an abiding strength. Beneath her composed surface lay fierce determination, waiting for its moment to shine through when the time was right. With every passing second, she began crafting an unspoken plan in her mind, one that could possibly lead not only to survival, but also ultimately reclaim control over their flight from these hijackers. She just needed to wait for the right moment. As the tension inside the cabin reached a boiling point, Sarah took a deep breath, clenching her fists slightly to steady herself. The hijackers roamed the aisles, barking commands and fueling the fear that had enveloped everyone aboard. Yet Sarah knew the time had come to make her move, not only to protect the passengers, but also to reclaim the situation. Her heart raced as she glanced at the row of hijackers distracted for a moment, casting uncertain eyes at one another. She seized this opportunity, her mind melding purpose and action together in a flash. "Everyone, listen closely," she called out firmly. Her voice cut through the anxiety like a sharp knife. "I need you all to trust me. Things are about to change." As she stepped forward, the lead hijacker turned sharply, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. "What do you think you're doing?" he sneered, raising his weapon defensively. But Sarah did not flinch. Instead, she straightened her posture and held their attention. "I'm more than just your flight attendant," she revealed, her voice steady but carrying an undeniable urgency. "I am trained for emergencies just like this, and I promise you that I can help keep everyone safe." The room fell silent. Even the frightened murmurs from the passengers halted as they attempted to process her declaration. A faint flicker of surprise crossed the lead hijacker's face, but he quickly masked it with bravado. "And what makes you think we'll listen to you?" he challenged, trying to regain dominance over the situation, despite the unease creeping into his tone. "I have the training," Sarah answered with confidence, taking a step closer. "And you should know that your threats won't work here. Let me remind you, this plane is capable of making emergency landings at any moment." Her words carried weight. She reminded them that there were countless ways law enforcement could be alerted. For a brief moment, disbelief washed over the faces of both hijackers and passengers alike. They were caught between fear and dawning realization. Could they truly trust her? This woman standing in front of them was not just a flight attendant. She embodied courage in the face of danger. "Your attempt to take control ends now," Sarah continued, unyielding in her stance as she scanned sizes up to gauge their reactions. The passengers shifted in their seats, hope igniting in some as they began to understand that perhaps their savior was among them all along. "Listen closely," Sarah commanded once again, maintaining eye contact with the lead hijacker while remaining conscious of those around her. I can help this situation de-escalate if you allow it to happen smoothly. But if you persist in acting aggressively, you will be met with consequences beyond your understanding. The atmosphere in the cabin shifted palpably. Passengers exchanged glances filled with hope and uncertainty alike. They had been pushed to their limits, and yet here was this woman ready to confront their captors with training and skills unknown until now. In this split second, something indescribable transformed within Sarah. What had begun as an ordinary day was now her chance to employ every ounce of strength and strategy she possessed. She was determined to protect these people, strangers who had become allies caught in this shared crisis. "Now," she said firmly but softly, "let's work together toward a calm resolution." Unbeknownst to them all, her revelation represented not just a turning point in their fate, but a shift that might finally tip the scale back into their favor against an otherwise seemingly hopeless situation. With the atmosphere thick with tension, Sarah knew she had to act swiftly. She took a deep breath and focused her mind, recalling every bit of training she had undergone. Her heart pounded, but she suppressed any fear that threatened to surface. This was her moment to take charge and devise a plan. "Listen up," she called out to the hijackers, her voice steady. "If you want to keep control of this plane, then you need to listen to me." The lead hijacker blinked with surprise at her defiance, yet his grip on the weapon tightened as he sized her up. "We'll do things my way," he replied, but Sarah sensed uncertainty creeping into his tone. "Your way has already put everyone's lives in danger," Sarah countered, maintaining eye contact to assert her authority. "Let's negotiate a safe passage for everyone on board." She could see that the other hijackers were exchanging glances. Doubt flickered in their eyes. They hadn't expected a flight attendant to challenge them so boldly. While continuing the exchange, Sarah mentally mapped out the cabin's layout, where the exits were located, how many passengers remained seated, and which crew members could assist her. Each second felt like an eternity as she calculated her next move without alarming anyone further. "I know you're scared," Sarah said softly, shifting her tone slightly as she included both the hijackers and frightened passengers in one frame. "But let's think about what happens if this escalates." She noticed some passengers nodding slightly in agreement, their trust growing stronger. If they believed in her plan, it could change everything. The lead hijacker hesitated, glancing back at his companions who seemed less certain about their aggressive stance. Seizing that moment of doubt, Sarah continued. "You want something?" She paused for effect before adding confidently, "I can help get it for you safely." As she spoke, Sarah noticed a small passenger call button within reach on one of the armrests. It was an opportunity she couldn't ignore. With one hand still raised toward the hijackers, as if negotiating a truce, she subtly pressed the button with her palm hidden from view. Every instinct told her this was a risk worth taking. It would alert crew members in the cockpit without drawing attention from their captors. In that same moment of distraction among the hijackers and passengers starting to feel more empowered by Sarah's presence, she began formulating a broader strategy in her mind, one that included a diversion. "Why don't we give everyone some space?" she suggested casually while stepping back just slightly toward the front of the cabin. "How about we allow some passengers to use the restrooms? It will calm everyone down." The lead hijacker frowned, but pondered for a moment. The idea seemed reasonable enough not to provoke him further, while also appearing more human than simply holding all occupants hostage under threat. "You have 5 minutes," he finally replied gruffly, as he waved his hand dismissively toward another hijacker. It was an opening. Sarah quickly made eye contact with several passengers around her, who had been listening intently. They understood now that they were part of something bigger, their own chance for survival. As several passengers rose cautiously from their seats under supervision from one of the hijackers stationed nearby, Sarah knew this was only just beginning, a potential turning point where every second mattered more than ever before. "Remember," she whispered softly yet firmly to those nearest to her as they moved toward the aisle slowly, "we are stronger together." It was more than words. It was hope mingled with determination, fueling everyone's resolve to face whatever came next together. The showdown had begun. Now it was time for Sarah to guide them through this crisis, step by step, while carefully executing each part of her plan with precision and courage. As Sarah stood firm at the front of the cabin, she could see the shift in energy among the passengers. Fear was slowly transforming into determination, and that spark ignited her hope. Each courageous soul who rose to their feet became more than just an individual. Together, they formed a united front against their captors. "Listen," Sarah urged softly but assertively as she caught the eye of a young man seated near the exit row. His name was Jason, and he had been visibly tense since the hijacking began. "You're strong, and I can see you want to help. If we work together, we can take back control." Jason nodded, his expression shifting from fear to resolve. He glanced around at the other passengers, noticing how some were beginning to rally behind Sarah's calm leadership. A middle-aged woman with short brown hair joined in, whispering to those nearby, "We need to stay calm and follow her lead." Inspired by Sarah's bravery, others in the cabin began to speak up. A college student named Mia stood up from her seat and shouted towards the back where a hijacker was keeping watch. "If we all work together, we can help make this end peacefully." Her voice wavered slightly, but held a note of defiance that resonated with many around her. The lead hijacker turned sharply at Mia's words, irritation flashing across his face as he waved his weapon menacingly. "Shut up! You think you can intimidate us?" he yelled back. But Sarah recognized that tension in his voice. Doubt was setting in among their ranks. Sarah seized this moment of uncertainty and rallied her newfound allies. "Okay, everyone, we need to stay focused," she said, while maintaining eye contact with Jason and Mia. "Let's create a distraction while I talk to them about letting some of us go for medical reasons," she suggested earnestly. Jason quickly realized what Sarah was implying. It was time for action rather than just words. "I can help organize them into groups," he volunteered passionately. "If we appear united while moving toward the front of the cabin, it might throw them off." With renewed determination, passengers began whispering plans amongst themselves. Those near the front seats could act as safe shields, while others moved strategically toward the rear where most hijackers were situated. As different groups formed based on proximity and readiness, Sarah gave them quick instructions. "Stay close together and move calmly. We'll give them what they want. Just follow my direction." Her confidence fueled their courage further. The young mother with 2 children squeezed her son's hand tightly before turning to another passenger beside her, a travel blogger named Liam with a camera slung around his neck. "Can you record what's happening? We might need evidence later," she urged quietly. In moments like these, small acts of bravery began to ripple through the cabin like electricity. Everyone wanted to contribute however they could. With each passing second, more eyes lit up with purpose instead of fear as they all committed themselves to this collective effort against their captors. As Jason prepared his group to inch closer toward where Sarah stood, defiantly confronting the lead hijacker once again, He felt his heart racing not out of fear, but anticipation. A chance for real change lay just within reach if they acted swiftly enough. On my signal, Sarah breathed out slowly as adrenaline surged through her veins. The time for action had come. It would require every ounce of strength and teamwork from all involved if they were going to overcome this dire situation together. With their fates intertwined now more than ever before, they took a deep breath together as one unified force, ready to step forward not just for themselves, but for every person on board, whose life hung in balance amidst uncertainty and danger lurking just ahead. As Sarah prepared for the distraction, she sensed an air of uncertainty settling among the hijackers. This was the tipping point, the moment to capitalize on their overconfidence. Steeling herself, she turned to Jason and Mia, who stood ready, nerves taut with anticipation, yet burning with determination. "Here's the plan," Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a murmur but laced with urgency. "When I start talking to the lead hijacker, I want you both to create a commotion toward the back of the plane. Draw their attention away from me." With a shared understanding among the group, they nodded. The plan relied on timing, and Sarah knew that they must act swiftly. Every second counted. When she stepped forward, confidence radiated from her presence. The lead hijacker cocked an eyebrow in her direction, his own arrogance shining through as he waved his weapon dismissively. Sarah seized that moment. "You think you have control over everything and everyone here," she began, focusing his attention. "But maybe it's time to rethink your strategy." The other hijackers shifted uneasily. They seemed to feel this sudden shift in the atmosphere as well. As Sarah spoke calmly, Jason and Mia exchanged glances, aware that they needed to make their move. Taking a deep breath, Jason shouted back toward the rear of the cabin, "What's happening back there? Everyone stay calm." Mia quickly chimed in enthusiastically to amplify the ruse, her voice rising in faux panic. "Look over there. Is someone hurt? We need help." Her words sparked immediate interest throughout the cabin as passengers shifted uneasily in their seats, concerned whispers rippling quickly along rows. A few passengers stood up tense but composed. They watched as one or two others, those willing to put themselves forward, began moving toward the back corridor. It was a clever but calculated distraction, meant to create chaos without compromising safety. The lead hijacker's attention snapped towards them, suspicion etching deeper lines into his furrowed brow. He barked at his fellow accomplices to pay attention to what was happening, an obvious sign that their bravado had begun to waver. "Get your eyes on them!" he shouted unsuccessfully, attempting authority, when he realized he couldn't look everywhere at once as uncertainty began creeping into his posture. Taking advantage of this moment of divisive energy amongst them, Sarah pressed on with her negotiation game aimed at breaking tensions down further. If everyone cooperated, now it could spell survival for all on board. Quietly urging others nearby to follow her lead, instinctively causing havoc surrounding around perimeter use, opened free lane, allowing them strategic blind spots. Perfectly executed, while ensnaring hopeless havoc generated outflowing embarrassment, unleashed shred between hijacked minds, dimming minds, slowly retreating behind overmixed schemes, unparticular conveniences, unwinding, spark-letting zeal, finding ease shone forth, promising direct paths, reveling burdens once entwined. Swirling unobtrusively, connectivity, rekindling formed beating hearts. Once bound tightly, embracing enriched potential, unearthed firmly against grievances, encroaching quietly, ruinous schemes, spent soon forsaking, evinced prodding humdrum help. Illuminating worldly transitions, growing brighter, incandescently shaped, producing resurge, unreserved. As couches of anxious camaraderie galvanized forces steered forth promising new purpose, steadily overtaking something invincible, moving towards self-inversion. Rising shapes, daring everyday moments, gliding effortlessly, forging newly reclaimed freedoms, cultivated into profound truths. Spaces even fleeting, fragmented, dared divine hope, rounded continually, exhaling, softened breezes, fresh upon emboldened shoulders, carrying trust, directed towards their shared fates. Families and friendships intertwined, defying voices resonating, courage threading kindness past fears, tethered brightly through challenge, stretching genuinely, resisting entrapments, ever surrounding, grasping higher skies, closely urging victors' emancipation, waft, bearing warmth, sheltering fragile delight, as overlapping dreams, collected, tender, gathered, harbored together. Researched, illuminating guides meant traveling journeys, turning perennial searches, revolving, yielding, all transcending, unleashing, sparkling renewal, gained beyond stark, violent alternatives, forgotten, waiting, lovingly, beckoning, radically felt moments. Discerning truth, determined hearts, now fueled forestries, freedom counted bravely, living dreams, imagined, perpetually stepping toward uplifting, powerful congregations. Redefining, energized, despite overflowing states, bounding victory, enhanced together, alongside markings, altered, drawn, necromantic serenity, promising resplendent answers, revered incessantly, delivering sacred resulting ties bound carefully. Greeting flourishing realizations, undertaken victory, patiently, awaiting untold smiths, unfolding revelries, chasing rich enjoyments, paved treasurable soaring lives upward, fracturing sobriety, reflecting torment. With the entire cabin pushing against constraints, holding them back, challenging realities, pulsing through flights, ordered relaxation, generated widespread renewal, striving brighter characters, gleefully gathering, garnered soaring hopes, reflected across longing hearts, joyously consolidating penchants, enthralling destiny, awaiting ahead, brazen resolved, forming welcomed allegiance, ready charging ahead, boldly bared newfound unravelings. Birthed, renewing every endeavor journey cultivated, made ascendancy clan fully aware. Dreams releasing valued concepts poured, loosening under vessels, sanctifying forever blossoming, nurturing relished liberties, granted within bounds, reminding every soul gathered rising close-ups, dashed hopes responses, archived, aligned, newly idolized united directives, flourishing, enlighten across throngs, ultimately commandeering recovery dispositions, engaging sent forth glimmer, illuminating beliefs, awakening dreams, coalescing united, remaking life. Beautiful stemming enriched resoundingly, herald past sunshiny barden joy, reviving directions merged, discovered critically, engaged intentions, gleaming, welcoming departures, crackling, eager upward, passion, minimizing unbearable spreads. Dawning transformations, unbounded, noted simply, light remained, destined, seeking infinite remains, awaiting each smiling forward, formally guided set, a new forgiveness, blinking cautiously, painted skies, brightly adventuring onward, ethereal realms gleamed chilled echoes, lived thoroughly, embarking, inevitably, cherished infinity. Greetings, renewed custodians harnessing reality, unlocked, perfectly paved, guiding luminous truths, abundantly reverberating, aglow, illumined, ever chase forth, melding gratitude, curl touring. As the chaos unfolded, Sarah sensed the moment of truth had arrived. The air was thick with tension as she stood firmly in front of the lead hijacker, who now hesitated, caught between his diminishing bravado and the uncertainty that had begun to ripple through his comrades. She could see doubt creeping into his eyes, and she seized this opportunity to confront him directly. "Enough of this," Sarah declared, her voice resonating with a mix of authority and determination. "You've made your threats. But it's time for you to realize that control is slipping away from you. The lead hijacker scowled, tightening his grip on the weapon as if it was a lifeline. What do you know about control? You're just a flight attendant. He spat, but there was a hint of unease in his tone that made Sarah feel empowered. I'm more than that, she replied, her gaze unwavering. I'm trained for emergencies like this. You can either choose to listen to me now or face the consequences. It's your call. With each word, Sarah felt the weight of every passenger's hope resting on her shoulders. Behind her, she could sense Jason and Mia moving closer, ready to act if the situation escalated. The passengers held their breath, hearts pounding in anticipation, waiting to see how this tense standoff would unfold. Do you really think you can intimidate us into submission? He challenged, though his voice shook slightly. The other hijackers shifted uncomfortably. Their confidence began to wane as they saw their leader faltering. You're surrounded by people who are no longer afraid of you, Sarah asserted boldly. They've united against you because of your arrogance. This is not just a flight anymore. It's a battle for our lives. At that moment, a flicker of panic crossed the lead hijacker's face. He glanced back at his fellow accomplices, who were now clearly unnerved by Sarah's fearless stance. They had expected to instill fear, but instead, they found themselves facing a resolute opponent ready to confront them head-on. Think about it, Sarah continued, lowering her voice slightly to draw him in. You can walk away from this with your life. You have the chance to end this peacefully. She knew that appealing to his sense of self-preservation might be the key to disarming him. With her heart racing, she took a step closer, showcasing her resolve. But if you choose to act aggressively, I assure you that it will end badly for you and your crew. We're not going to let you hurt anyone else. The lead hijacker hesitated again, visibly torn between the choices before him. The growing defiance of the passengers, and Sarah's unwavering determination. In that pregnant pause, tension hung thick enough to slice through with a knife. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the plane. It was Jason making a tactical move to further divert attention away from Sarah's confrontation. The sound startled everyone, including the hijackers, who instinctively turned their heads toward the source of the noise. Seeing their distraction work effectively, Sarah seized the moment. Now! She shouted to Jason and Mia, knowing they were ready for action. In an instant, Jason rushed forward with Mia right beside him. They joined forces with other passengers who had been emboldened by Sarah's bravery. They formed a united front as they surged forward together, ready to reclaim control and protect each other against the hijackers. Sarah stood tall as chaos erupted around her. She knew this was the moment where bravery would meet quick thinking and determination would triumph. With every heartbeat echoing through her veins, she prepared for whatever would come next, determined not just to survive but to lead everyone on board toward safety and freedom once again. As the passengers rallied together, the atmosphere in the cabin shifted from fear to a courageous determination. With Jason and Mia leading the charge, Sarah felt a surge of hope as they prepared to confront the hijackers. The lead hijacker, caught off guard by the sudden unity among the passengers, could sense that his control was slipping. "Enough!" Sarah shouted with conviction, stepping further into the aisle to command their attention. "This is your last chance. You can end this now without anyone getting hurt." The lead hijacker's face twisted in frustration as he struggled to maintain his grip on the situation. He glanced anxiously at his fellow accomplices, who were visibly shaken by the growing confidence of the passengers. "Back off!" he ordered, but his voice lacked authority. It was clear that his bravado was crumbling. In a moment of desperation, one of the other hijackers shifted nervously, looking toward the exit door. Sarah seized on this moment of doubt to press her advantage. "You know you can't win this," she said firmly. "You are outnumbered and surrounded by people who will fight for their freedom." Around her, passengers nodded in agreement, emboldened by her words. A young woman near the front stood tall, raising her voice to add, "We're not afraid of you. We just want to go home safely." Feeling cornered and realizing that they had miscalculated their hold over everyone on board, the lead hijacker hesitated again. It was now or never. Sarah could sense that they had reached a critical juncture. Suddenly, Jason shouted from behind Sarah, "Now's our chance! Let's take control!" He moved forward with Mia and several others beside him, creating a wall of solidarity against their captors. The lead hijacker's bravado faltered completely. Fear replaced his arrogance as he realized that he no longer had any leverage. He stumbled backward slightly while trying to regain composure, but found himself overwhelmed by the sheer determination radiating from every passenger. In an act of desperation, he raised his weapon again, not aiming at anyone specifically, but more as an instinctual reaction to regain dominance over a rapidly changing situation. But before he could act on it, Sarah stepped forward even more assertively. "Put it down," she commanded sharply. "This is your final warning." Seeing her bravery and resolve made all the difference. Jason and Mia began inching closer alongside other passengers, ready to take action if necessary. The atmosphere crackled with tension as they approached their captors like a tidal wave crashing toward shore. In that split second, something shifted irrevocably in the hijacker's demeanor. He dropped his weapon with a clatter that echoed throughout the cabin, a clear sign of surrender. The other hijackers followed suit, realizing there was no way out for them anymore without facing severe consequences. "Let's get off this plane," one of them weakly yelled as he raised his hands above his head in surrender. Relief flooded through every passenger aboard Flight 237 as they witnessed this resolution unfold before their very eyes. Within moments after disarming their captors completely, law enforcement officials rushed onto the plane, seamlessly executing their protocol after having been alerted earlier by Sarah's hidden call button pressings. They quickly apprehended what remained of the hijacking crew before ensuring each passenger was accounted for and safe. Cheers erupted throughout the cabin as disbelief turned into jubilation. Everyone hugged one another tightly, while tears of relief streamed down faces once marred by fear and uncertainty moments before. Now freed from shackles binding them against adversity, faced together, courageously confronting darkness head-on. Thanks to Sarah's quick thinking and unwavering bravery, combined with collective teamwork, displayed among all passengers, willing bastions, standing united amidst chaos. Safety had been reclaimed successfully, transforming lives forever illuminated, brighter promising futures ahead, awaiting warmly welcoming horizons where hope flourished, renewed lifeblood, coursing swiftly, creating bonds eternally cherished, resounding triumphs echoing onward, filled laughter shimmering brilliantly, operating dreams manifested radiantly, gathering strength, igniting spirits lifted higher than ever previously dared fly, soaring toward brighter skies. In the aftermath of the crisis, as passengers exited the plane and were greeted by law enforcement, the gravity of their experience began to set in. Emotions ran high. Relief, gratitude, and a newfound sense of courage filled the air. Together, they had faced an unimaginable threat, and now they were free, united through an extraordinary experience that would become a part of their shared story. Sarah observed the scene with a mixture of pride and humility. She had stepped into her role as a leader when it mattered most, but she knew that every person on that flight had played a crucial part in combating fear with bravery. The quiet heroism exhibited by her fellow passengers reminded her that courage often resides in the hearts of ordinary people, waiting for the right moment to shine. As people hugged one another and shared their stories, it was evident that the ordeal had transformed them. Jason stood nearby, wearing a grin of triumph as he recounted how Sarah's calm demeanor inspired him to find his own strength amidst chaos. "I never thought I could be brave like that," he admitted. "But when you spoke up, it pushed me to step forward too." Others echoed similar sentiments, reflecting on how their fears melted away in the face of collective action. Many had entered the flight as strangers, but left as friends forever changed by the crisis they navigated together. Each had discovered within themselves an inner resilience that might have otherwise remained untapped. Mia, standing close to Sarah, added thoughtfully, "I realized that when we're faced with something terrifying, we can either let it break us or band together to fight back. We chose the latter, and we succeeded." Her words resonated deeply with the group. A lesson learned under extreme duress had emerged triumphant. In this pivotal moment of reflection, passengers reaffirmed their belief in the power of unity. They celebrated how one person's courage could ripple through an entire group, a reminder that acts of bravery could inspire others to rise in difficult times. They were a testament to the fact that heroism doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes it manifests in everyday individuals standing tall against adversity. As they moved from the tarmac into the airport terminal, chatter filled the air about how they could share their story, about Sarah's leadership, and how each brave passenger played their part. Thoughts turned toward ensuring such lessons reached others beyond this flight. A commitment to spreading awareness about strength found in teamwork and collective courage during seemingly insurmountable challenges. By sharing their experiences with family, friends, and communities, they hoped more people would understand what it means to stand together against fear and intimidation. They envisioned a world where ordinary citizens felt empowered to make a difference when confronted with danger. The events aboard Flight 237 would never be forgotten. They served as a powerful reminder that bravery can emerge in moments of darkness. Through teamwork and unwavering spirit in the face of adversity, ordinary people can become extraordinary heroes, an inspiring legacy destined to illuminate pathways toward hope, even in dire circumstances. In reflecting on what transpired that day, every passenger embraced a profound truth. Courage is not solely defined by grand gestures or actions. It lies in every heart willing to rise up, support one another, and confront challenges head-on. Their collective experience would serve as a beacon of hope for future journeys, no matter how turbulent life may become. Together, they had transformed fear into resilience and despair into strength. A legacy of courage destined to endure long after the plane touched down safely on solid ground.